Hello and welcome to the Saltcast. My name is Ryan Johnson and I'm your host. And today we've got Jason Parr, Danny Wright, and Paul Johnson on today. Welcome, guys. Hope you guys are all doing well.
Hey, doing great. Thanks.
Hey y'all.
Hey, hey, hey.
I myself am recovering from some illness. Didn't get tested, so I have no idea whether or not it was COVID, but on the recovery. Just grateful to be back at the computer, back with you guys. So if I sound different, got the sniffles, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you have to deal with the sniffles.
Get
Hey,
this
Um,
listen,
intro over with
I,
and mute yourself, Ryan.
right. I'm sure some
listen,
people.
I don't want to be opinionated, but you should get tested.
Well, I don't know. Maybe for some people, it's a soothing sound. Someone kind of got the sniffles, or if it's triggering. Either way.
I think you
Um,
sound better.
oh, thank you. The deeper voice with the cold.
That's
But
that's the
today,
radio voice, Ryan.
so today, I was hoping we could have a discussion, and I think we've kind of decided there's probably three different methods of sales tax compliance. And I was hoping we have a discussion on kind of pros and cons, what these three different methods are, who they work for, and kind of what you guys have been seeing in the marketplace.
Absolutely. When I think about how people handle sales tax compliance, and when I say sales tax compliance, I'm talking about the process of identifying all of the amounts of sales tax that were collected, how that's calculated, how that's reported on tax return forms, and then the process of getting it remitted to the state. And everybody in the world of sales tax compliance knows that that's a monthly battle, I will call it. And so there's a few methods that we've seen in our experience, and there's some studies that have been done over the last couple of years, but one in particular at the end of last year that talks about the number of solutions that are performed by different companies across the U.S. But anyway, obviously one method is in-house, and this study determined that almost half of companies manage their sales tax compliance in-house. And I'm sure there's lots of reasons for that, and we can talk a little bit about that as we go along here. But most of the time, it's due to the fact that a taxpayer believes that their processes and their company is too complicated to outsource it or implement an automated solution. And we have seen some very complex processes, but they're labor intensive. And essentially, it takes multiple people all month to get to the point where they can get the numbers together and file a return. But this is half of companies out there. The other solution that we can talk about is an automated technology provider, right? The claim here is that automated technology provider is going to simplify the process. And that might be the case. That is the case in some situations, and roughly 20 or more percent of taxpayers out there have some sort of an automated technology solution to their sales tax compliance. And then obviously the third way is you outsource that to experts who are familiar with the process, have built efficiencies, and can take care of all aspects of that process for you. So I'll just speak to in-house solutions, and then I would invite any of you to elaborate on a couple of things. One, what you hear on a consistent basis in our What's Next calls. When we talk to clients and taxpayers throughout the marketplace, they come with some pretty consistent complaints about their situation. So I'll just say this overall, the study that was done at the end of last year indicated that 71% of taxpayers or companies are dissatisfied with their solution. And the fact is, sometimes you settle for known errors or issues or processes because you're just not aware that there's a better process out there. We like to talk about the idea that when you outsource to Peisner Johnson, you have greater peace of mind and confidence that the process is taken care of. And you want, when it comes to sales tax, it's just an aspect that's required. You have to get it taken care of. So you don't want to be dissatisfied with the process that you have in place. So let's just talk about some of these, maybe round robin. Talk about in-house staff first. So some of the issues that they face are changing laws, changing nexus requirements and responsibilities, changing thresholds, changing tax rates, just a consistent changing forms, changing methods of how you file. Um, some of the most difficult aspects, especially from an in-house perspective that we've seen, is states change the tax type or the process by which you remit tax to their state. And just figuring out the form to fill out. And in a lot of cases, from an in-house perspective, they spend hours and hours on the reconciliation process to get the numbers where they need them to be able to populate the form as it is. And so a change in form or a change in methodology that a state goes to completely disrupts the in-house process. And so when we talk with individuals, and Danny and Paul can speak to this, especially who are looking for solutions and looking for a way out, so to speak, in the sales tax compliance world, it's the hours spent, the law changes when it comes to nexus and to tax generally, the rates that are to be used and how to get those on a form and get them into the state. It's just an overwhelming process for them. And maybe as I've talked, Danny or Paul, you've thought of some things that you've seen from an in-house solution side.
Yeah, no, I'm just surprised at the number of potential clients and new clients that come on. In hearing about their in-house process of, the spreadsheets that were built over the years, or the manual processes of how they've been getting the data from this system in this format and then putting it in this way so that it can get put on this form, and then having to go onto the state website and prepare that return and file that return. And I just think about the hours and hours and hours spent and the frustration that that individual or multiple individuals many times have gone through, just an inefficient way of going about it. We had a current client recently who was filing the state of Washington internally, and just that one return would take these two gals the entire day, 8 to 10 hours, sometimes longer, if they couldn't get the reconciliation to tie and they couldn't get certain things to flow as they should. And they just came to us and said, we're done. We're at our wits' end with the state of Washington. This is what we're doing. This is what it should look like, and this is how it needs to be filed. And we took that and literally put it through the software and through our systems that we've built internally, and created a couple of automated ways, and we were able to take on that return filing without much effort at all. And I remember the first couple of months working with these two gals, just the awe and the shock that, man, why didn't we just do this years ago with you guys? It's just one example, but it's surprising when it comes to in-house systems, homegrown system solutions that you think are great, that spend hours and hours and hours, but at the end of the day, no reason why it can't be outsourced to a more efficient solution, and let those internal staff just focus on things that they're really good at and their own expertise.
Not even that you felt like the in-house system was more efficient. Sometimes it's a microcontrol, I want to have control over all the numbers, where everything's going. It's hard to trust it if it's out of your hands. We hear that a lot. It's just, I can't trust that it's going to be done right if it's out of my hands. But a lot of times it was the best solution, right? Because there's not an automated solution that connects to your system. It's a homegrown system, whatever the case may be. But I will say 100% of all of the companies who have had a homegrown system or did it in-house, especially in a manual process, 100% of them, when they move to an outsourced solution, say, wow, I wish I would have done that sooner. Um, Not even 1% can we say regret moving that over or moving in that direction.
Yeah, agreed.
So let's talk just a little bit about automated technology providers. So I'm not opposed to automated technology provider. In fact, we work closely with several and make recommendations for companies to work with automated technology providers. And when I say automated technology providers, I mean software companies that can connect to your system. They can give you real-time rates, very accurate rates. They can provide taxability on your cells that are going out and connecting and getting those rates. And then they can also take all of that information and they can populate forms, file those returns, and make payment on your behalf, right? Now, I have a lot of opinions on what aspects software companies do really, really well and what aspects they will continue to develop and improve and become better, I think, over time. But the real issue with automated technology providers is the approach is we're going to simplify this for you. We're going to make your life easy. And they do the automation pretty well. But then there's inevitably the implementation, the choosing of codes to determine the taxability of your products, connecting those with the SKUs. There's the process of sometimes it's rigid on due dates, timelines, and funding. Obviously, it has to be rigid because anytime you automate a whole process, then everything has to function and flow the same way. So if you have some processes that are outside of that flow, then you run into some issues. But probably the number one complaint, I'll say complaint that we get is it was supposed to be simple and I feel like I spend more time on it. And that comes from a couple of things. Questions come up. Sometimes there's breakdown in the automated process. Sometimes what we find is the collection is great, but the remittance is under remitted or over remitted. And when you're trying to find an answer or a solution to why this may have happened, number one, you can't find out a solution of why it's happening. And number two, it's difficult to resolve if it can be resolved. And so where you felt like, man, I can just let this go. This is automated. This will simplify my life. You start running into situations that it would improve your situation if you just had an expert who could walk through some of those questions and responses and resolve some of the situations that you're running into. So I want to be careful here that I'm not looking negatively at automated technology providers because they do improve many of the processes that even we go through to manage returns and compliance for our clients. But it's helpful to have that consultative approach or the hand-holding in the process to ensure that everything's being taken care of. Paul or Danny or Ryan, what have you heard or run into when it comes to automated solutions? It's kind of a utopia thought that I'm never going to have to deal with this again. And then next month, oh man, how did that happen?
I would
and how am I
agree with
going to
that
fix
completely.
And one of the challenges I see companies run into with that is it's not only do they often not have somebody that they can actually consult with to, get tax answers and information, but they have to just go through the general support channel, for the automated solution. And that can be challenging, right? For people, we've all dealt with software companies and, log in, submit a claim, and have to just wait for that back and forth rather than being able to just jump on a phone call and say, here's the issue. and get it resolved. So there's the challenge with, say, the separation between software support and actual like tax support and consulting, and that can provide an issue, and oftentimes it can make it more difficult versus somebody that has it in house, because they know their system and they can just go in and resolve the issue themselves rather than having to work through the software. But again, with all that said, I would echo what you said, Par, of it. The software, here we are, right, in 2021, and the bottom line is you need software. Many companies absolutely need some piece of automation. It just makes sense, right, to have it specifically for the rate calculation piece. Where I see companies get into trouble is a couple things, actually, when it comes to the automation. First of all, thinking that if they take both the rate calculation and, say, the returns with the same company and think, oh, this will be ideal for me because it's all under one roof, right? It's one company. I'll only have one invoice. But just because the rate calculation piece is the right solution for you from a specific company doesn't mean that you should necessarily go with them for the returns, right? So you really need to consider those two pieces separately and individually. The other point or issue that I see is when companies go the route with everything automated for budget reasons, right? They just think it's going to be the most cost effective, where issues come up and you could likely spend even more over the course of, say, months or years because of underpayments, overpayments, time and effort that goes into everything we just discussed, right, as far as dealing with issues and not having timely support that you need, and ultimately your staff in-house that was supposed to be freed up to do other things to help your company is stuck, dealing with sales tax issues still.
That second point is such a great point. You could spend far more on the automated solution, imagining that it would be hands off and much more cost effective. I don't want to muddy the water because we could talk about this in another podcast or another time. But if you have used an automated technology provider for a risk analysis or a nexus study, or you've done a DIY, you really should talk to us, because you really could be out of pocket a lot more if you don't have someone that's consulting you through the process and helping you see and understand why the recommendations are made and what recommendations should be made. But anyway, aside from that, I really appreciate those.
I don't think that muddies the water, because that brings up another point. When you're dealing with an automated solution and issues do come up, even if it's just one state, like one particular issue, oftentimes the problem that companies run into is they'll look at that issue and maybe they even get feedback from their software partner, and oftentimes the feedback will be, well, it's black and white to them. Here's the issue, here's how to resolve it, and here's how you need to resolve it with the state. Okay. The issue with that is oftentimes that will be more just like, here's what the state, if you talk to the state, here's exactly what they would tell you to do. And you need to understand that, but you may have an option B and an option C that you need to consider as far as resolving that issue before you make a business decision, right? We're big on that. We talk about it all the time of lay out every option that you have, lay out the pros and cons of each of those options, and let you make a educated business decision, because 3 companies could be in the same exact situation, and all 3 companies could make a different decision, around that, choosing A, B, or C, and those 3 different options could be ideal for each of them individually.
Yes, that is a great point. We talk to people every day who are trying to make these decisions, and I will say only every time in every situation you have more options than the one option presented. So it's worthwhile having that conversation. So segueing into that, let me just say the third way that you handle sales tax compliance is to outsource it. And it could be outsourced to a company like Peisner Johnson or other companies that handle sales tax compliance. I will say this, and let me kind of make this really clear. In fact, I don't want to kind of make it clear. I want to make this really clear, right? We want to talk to everybody we can talk to, right? We have what we call a what's next call. It's free. The purpose of the what's next call is to simply answer questions, learn about your situation, and offer you greater peace of mind when it comes to making decisions that need to be made to manage your situation. We want to help people be compliant. Now, the thing that I want to make clear is if we can help you and our services are valuable to you, then that's awesome. But we're happy to talk to you and answer questions and help you gain greater confidence when it comes to sales and use tax, even if we're not your service provider of choice, right? We really want to talk to you and walk through these processes. One of the biggest, I'll call it a myth out there, is that switching from in-house to an outsourced process with a company like Peisner Johnson, or switching from an automated solution to an outsourced solution like Peisner Johnson, or switching from another outsourced solution to Peisner Johnson's solution is too difficult or complicated. We can tell you that it's actually a very smooth and convenient and efficient process. And obviously we could do case study after case study and testimonial after testimonial. But I'm not here just to tout Peisner Johnson, but to help everybody understand that you do not have to settle for the known issues or frustrations that you face in sales tax compliance. There are better solutions. We would love to talk through what solutions are out there for you, and so we would encourage you to go to What's Next call. And we're happy at the end of that What's Next call if you walk away not needing any solution that we have to offer, but you do actually have greater peace of mind or confidence in decisions that you're going to make going forward.
Amen to that, brother.
About to say, we want you. I think we had one of the employees here at Peisner Johnson. He sent a picture. He said, "Hey, this Big O tires or wherever he was at. He was getting tires. Say, hey, you guys must have helped them get some peace of mind because they had peace of mind, on their their tire advertisement." And that's what we preach peace of mind all the time, but everybody who gets on the What's Next call, they'd agree it's peace of mind. So every time you see peace of mind, we want you guys to think of us.
Indeed.
But yeah, if you find that you're part of that 71% that is dissatisfied with your current solution and you feel that there could be something better, and I'll emphasize that no matter how complicated you may think it is, we are up to the task. And I know that a lot of people who work here are excited about the complicated. Get in there and figure out the solutions.
They do.
Hey, even if you're in the 29% that does feel satisfied, there could be some blind spots, right? So I'd say 100%, like, get on a call and have even a brief discussion, 15, 20 minutes, and we'll potentially point out some blind spots. And initially you might be like, this is not giving me any peace of mind, but I assure you, once we actually get through that conversation entirely, you'll end up in a good spot, because at least you'll know that there were some issues that were pointed out, and certainly we'll discuss the solutions, right, to resolve that, and you will end up in a better place.
True story.
Yeah. So if you are in that 100%, you should sign up for the What's Next call. So that's everybody.
That's better.
We really do want to talk to everybody. So thanks again, guys, for being on with me today. And we hope to see you guys in another one.
See ya.